Struck him out.
2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Welcome up, Rip Taylor.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Matthew Moreno, here to talk Dodgers on an off day, Matt, after they split the series with the Angels. Kind of a bizarre series. One game goes crazy the one direction, and the other game goes crazy the other direction. But we appreciate everybody joining us live here on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. As usual, you've noticed we've switched up our rotation a little bit as far as hosts for the month of September, just for some scheduling reasons. So shout out to Blake and Scott, who will be on this channel, not tonight, but in the very near future. So Matt, you enjoying the off day today?
Yes and no. The reason I'm not, I know everybody's excited about the NFL starting tonight, Ravens and Chiefs. They just went to halftime, so this is perfect timing. You guys can come spend some time with us. But every year, the start of an NFL season bothers me.
Oh, gosh.
Because all I hear is, oh, football's back. Yay, football's back. It's over. And I'm sitting there saying, college football season started 2 weeks ago, baby. Football has been back. Where has everybody else been?
Yeah, well, but at the end, stay tuned, everybody. We'll get Matthew Moreno's Las Vegas report from the USC game beating LSU and in the Raiders Stadium, Allegiant Stadium. So that'll be good. Look, I love college football. I'm with you. I love the NFL. It's great. It's great. The NFL, just money grabs everywhere, games every night of the week. So I'm excited for NFL season, but I do agree with you. I mean, week 0 NFL or college stuff is weird. Let's be honest. College football started this past weekend.
That is fair, but Florida State, Georgia Tech as an opener in Ireland, like that's a little bit better than kind of just a random FCS school playing Florida type thing. So I do agree. Sometimes week 0 can be hit or miss. So fine, but I will say like college football has technically been back, even if you consider it only this past Saturday.
Fair. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Well, a couple things we want to hit before we get to a bunch of questions. We've got some mailbag questions we received on social media. Of course, we'll do a live Q&A here as well. But Matt, I think the most interesting thing to talk about with the Dodgers right now is the starting rotation. You've got guys that are injured, that may or may not be coming back, that may or may not be coming back soon. You've got injured guys who are expected to come back soon. You've got struggling guys who have been a mess. You've got young guys who have been good, who are finally back up. And so as it currently stands, Matt, looking ahead to the next 6 games, this is how the Dodgers rotation shakes out. They've got Landon Knack scheduled to pitch tomorrow. Gavin Stone, Jack Flaherty, Walker Buehler, Yoshinobu Yamamoto coming back, and then Bobby Miller. So as they have all season, they appear to be going to a 6-man rotation. We'll get to Glasnow and Kershaw here in a second. Let's start with Yamamoto, because I think that's the headliner of this group. Makes 2 rehab appearances, expected back up on Tuesday from the Dodgers. What are you expecting from Yamamoto in that one?
A short outing, like no more than 4 innings. And I think if he completes 4, that would be amazing. It would mean that he was extremely efficient throughout the start and literally everything went well. I mean, he's pretty much, I had a feeling, before, kind of Bobby Miller struggled against the Angels, before Clayton Kershaw's injury last week, Dave Roberts had already left the door open of, hey, like it's possible that Yamamoto only makes 2 rehab starts with OKC and then he's back with us. When he only ended up pitching 2 innings in the second one, even though he threw 53 pitches. So like on one hand, he sort of did like stretch out a little bit more from a pitch count standpoint. But the Dodgers also like to see the practice of literally like spending an inning break in the dugout and then going back out there. And so, he fell short of the 3 innings. And I thought, hey, like, they might have to reconsider. Let me backtrack. I'm jumping all over the place. I apologize, everybody. Before that start, I thought Yamamoto would only take the mound twice for Oklahoma City and then join the Dodgers just because of the way things had been going with their rotation, with Glasnow being out mainly. Then Kershaw's injury happened. Then Bobby Miller struggled. And I thought, okay, like he probably is just coming back. And sure enough, Dave Roberts did say, as you mentioned, that he will be back on Tuesday. The interesting wrinkle in all of this is Bobby Miller, which I know we'll dive into. But with Yamamoto, like it's basically just starting his clock. Like, don't put too much stock into, if he does really well or sort of struggles a little bit. The important thing is if he's healthy and feels healthy after that outing.
Do you know, at one point they were talking about he was going to pitch 3 or 4 innings and then do an additional inning in the bullpen. I haven't seen anywhere that additional inning happened. Have you seen anything?
I have not. I don't necessarily think that it did because of how that start ended up going.
Got it.
He did throw the 53 pitches over 2 innings. One of the at bats was 17 pitches, I think, in the first inning when he kind of got knocked around. And again, this is all from his second rehab start with Oklahoma City, his most recent one. We do have the video up. I will caution that there were only, I think the first 2 or 3 questions are in English, and it's a lot of Japanese after that. So if you are native in Japanese language, then hey, go enjoy the full video. If not, you might only have a couple questions.
Yeah. I'm with you. It'll be interesting. I like that they're just going to let him get built up at the major league level. Because of the state of their current rotation. If they're going to do a 6-man, I think Yamamoto, even for 3 innings, is probably as good, if not better, than everybody else that you could possibly throw in that rotation, considering Landon Knack is already up and in this group. And obviously the goal is for him to be accustomed to major league pitching. So as much of the acclimation process as you can get started ASAP, I think with Yamamoto, I think is a good decision for the Dodgers. So again, he's expected on Tuesday. The other sort of transaction that the Dodgers have made / are expected to make is that Landon Knack is coming back up. He's expected to start game 1 of this next series on Friday. This is a guy, Matt, that we on this show have been clamoring for a long time. I did my mystery players and which of these starting pitchers you want. And the entire point was Landon Knack has been really, really good. Now, some of the underlying metrics, not super awesome for him, but the actual results, the Matt numbers have been very, very good. An ERA of 3 has given them length, has controlled some of the contact. And so Knack expected to start on Friday. Do we think this is just a temporary sort of spot in the rotation, or do you think this might be a chance for him to get stretched out over the next few weeks? Not stretched out, but get an extended run, I should see, at the major league level.
I think it's an opportunity to stick at the major league level. Maybe not necessarily in the rotation, but he could, shift into the bullpen potentially at some point, which you've already seen him follow an opener, I think 2 times this season with the Dodgers so far. They also don't have, a long reliever right now. And so ever since, the Ryan Yarbrough trade, and I know people have kind of wondered why the bullpen has been constructed that way, among other aspects of it. So I think maybe Landon Knack could also fill that void as well.
Yeah, and I see somebody in the chat asking about Landon Knack's options. So to clarify, he has been optioned only 4 times officially. You can be optioned 5 times. If you were to be sent down after 5 options, you would basically be DFA'd and placed on waivers. So to clarify what that means for Landon Knack, as far as I understand this, and Matt, you correct me if I'm wrong, is that he is up. The Dodgers can send him back down to AAA with no repercussions. I actually believe they can then call him back up so long as he is not optioned a 6th time before the end of the season. So just because he's up now does not mean this is his only time that he will be up with the major league roster. Is that how you understand it?
Yes, and the technicality or loophole, if you will, with all this is because the Dodgers started the season in South Korea with the Seoul series. And so the option, any players that got optioned right after that didn't count until the official limit of 5 for the season. And so that's kind of where the hang up is. If you look at, the transaction log, yes, Landon Knack has been sent down 5 times already this season. Jeff, as you said, officially the account is really only 4.
Yeah. So with only a few weeks left in the season, I don't imagine this will come into play. Even if the Dodgers decide to send him down at some point, I don't think they're going to have to make any crazy decisions. They will obviously not be doing anything that puts his status with the organization moving forward in jeopardy. So again, Knack to start Friday, Gavin Stone, Jack Flaherty, Walker Buehler, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and then Bobby Miller is the 6th man in this rotation. Now, the injury updates that we have, and we're going to get to Bobby Miller. I'm just going to set up the injury updates because I think they apply. Is that Tyler Glasnow is expected to throw a bullpen this weekend. It will be his first time throwing off a mound since going on the injured list with elbow tendonitis. Dave Roberts has indicated that he would need to have multiple bullpens, then face live hitters, then a simulated game, and then a rehab appearance of some sort. All this within 3 weeks. So again, multiple bullpens, face hitters, rehab appearance. The rehab appearance is Dave guessing, but he's the manager, so you would think his guess matters, all with 3 weeks left in the season. The other update we have is no update on Clayton Kershaw. He's in a walking boot. He played catch. That's all we have. These 2 guys, Matt, as we sort of draw this out? Like, well, let me just ask, Glasnow and Kershaw, do you expect these guys back before the end of the regular season?
I think Kershaw is the more likely of the two, just because he apparently, like, we found out as his toe injury became public that, oh, by the way, Dave Roberts, mentioned, yeah, he's been dealing with this off and on for multiple seasons.
Yeah.
So the fact that Kershaw has been able to keep playing catch and keep his arm active bodes well towards returning.
Yeah.
Now, the reason he's in a walking boot is to help with some of the inflammation in his toe, take some of the pressure off. Dave has also said that the Dodgers really don't know any sort of timeline until some of that swelling goes down, and then they can get a better idea. But I think considering Kershaw has pitched with it already, that he is a little bit of a safer bet maybe than Glasnow, just because of, like I said, he has experience with it and the multiple steps that you just laid out that Glasnow needs to take.
Yeah. I hope I'm wrong with Glasnow, but I've been on this train the whole time. There is no in between a minor elbow injury that is a 15-day stay on the injured list and a very serious, highly concerning elbow injury. Like, there's not a 30-day elbow injury. There's not a 45-day elbow injury. And so the fact that Glasnow had a setback, is now pitching again, I'm just looking at all the things he needs to check off. He needs to throw a bullpen. He needs to recover. He needs to throw another bullpen. Then he needs to face live hitters. And then he needs to throw a simulated game or a rehab appearance. You're telling me all those things are going to happen flawlessly, seamlessly, no additional pain, all in, what do we have, 3.5, 4 weeks left in the regular season? To me, Matt, that just feels like too many things stacked against him. Now, I hope I'm wrong. It's definitely possible. It feels like the type of thing where a single setback and this whole thing, this whole rehab appearance, this whole, coming back before the postseason thing goes sideways. And then it's not, well, okay, maybe he misses the first round. It feels like he either comes back in the next 3 or 4 weeks or he ain't coming back at all.
Yeah, it's tough. I get the concern, and I do agree that things would have to, go right every step of the way for Glasnow as he kind of reaches those different benchmarks. If you want to find a silver lining, you could argue that he's already dealt with the setback, so to speak, when, he was originally due to play catch last Tuesday and he couldn't. And they pushed that back to when the Dodgers were out in Arizona, and he did it then back-to-back days. Looking at the calendar, if he throws his bullpen session on Saturday, he could theoretically throw another one, call it Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then at that point, he's maybe, making, if they don't need him to face batters in a simulated game, if they say, yeah, just start your rehab assignment, then that's, the 16th or 17th type thing. And then he's returning the next week, which would be the final week of September. So I guess that technically puts him back during the regular season because they would still be playing. But yeah, it's, one tune-up start, if you will, before potentially starting game 1 of the NLDS, which is not the most comforting aspect by any means.
And I see people in the chat sort of saying, hey, are we sure the Dodgers are telling us the truth when it comes to these injury updates? When it comes to Glasnow especially, if the Dodgers were going to fake an injury to rest him and then get him back before the postseason, I don't think he'd be throwing his first bullpen on September 7th, considering the last day of the season is September 29th. Like, the timeline, if he would have come back 2 weeks ago, maybe. And then, he starts the process, and then he's making his first start like on Monday, September 9th. And then he pitches on September 15th. And then he pitches September 21st. And that's it. Like, I could see that. But the idea that he's going to start this whole process, make like one regular season start, and then be ready for the postseason, that seems like a stretch to me. So we'll see. We got a super chat here from Richard. We're going to get to Bobby Miller. Oh, we'll get to him right now. He says, with only 20 games left, we can't afford another crap effort from Bobby. Forces Dave to punt on the game to save arms. Let him figure it out at OKC. My thing with Bobby Miller is this, Matt. Tell me if you disagree. Knack, Stone, Flaherty, Buehler, Yamamoto, Bobby Miller. I think Bobby Miller is the first one to go if Glasnow or Kershaw comes back. Do you agree with that?
I do agree.
Because I think Knack, as much as they've used him, I think Bobby Miller, I've said with him and Buehler, there couldn't be any setbacks. And I was on Twitter a couple weeks ago and I said, hey, the arrow is pointing up with Bobby Miller. I never said he was back. I never said he had arrived, but things were looking better than they were. The arrow is not pointing up anymore. And there's not enough time in this season, Matt, for the arrow to get to a place where I feel good about it. So I agree with Richard here. Not that we can't afford another crap effort. I just don't want to see another crap effort. Like, if Glasnow comes back, then I want Knack to stay and I want Walker Buehler to stay. Walker Buehler would be staying because of contract stuff. So that's the issue. Now, the question I want to ask you is, what if Glasnow doesn't come back? Like, is Bobby Miller in the rotation until Kershaw or Glasnow comes back in your estimation?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume so, just based on the fact that Dave said after Bobby started against the Angels that he was going to stay in the rotation, and he twice now in recent weeks has said that Bobby Miller is starting games because the Dodgers don't have any other options. And so, like, and we're going to get into, a candid comment from Dave Roberts like this. I thought that was sort of interesting just from the standpoint of he typically, protects his players, I think probably is the best way I could phrase it. And that, like, saying it that, we don't have other options is a little bit like, it's not the most inspiring, for the player that he's speaking about. All of that being said, I guess because Yamamoto's coming back, he's not fully stretched out. Like, they want to try and be careful. Like, I could see why on one hand Bobby Miller's staying in the rotation. On the other hand, I don't necessarily know, because look, I think, and I lost track of who I did the show with last night. Daniel and I on our show Wednesday night, we kind of touched on, hey, Bobby Miller has basically had a lost season this year. There was the shoulder injury. There's been the knee injury that he's pitched with for who knows how long, at least 2 or 3 starts. And this is all coming after, expectations were set high because of what we saw from Bobby last season, when his timeline last year was accelerated as well. Like, you could make an argument that he potentially doesn't even make his MLB debut last year. And if he did, or was going to, it was going to be like July, August, September, not because of all the injuries. And so that, like, set unreasonable expectations for this year. And so part of me feels like, hey, maybe just let Bobby Miller, like, have the rest of the season to sort of reset. Like, you don't need to keep running him out there over these next 3 weeks.
Well, and we've seen this before. Like, I keep bringing up Gavin Stone as an example. Like, last season was basically a lost season for Gavin Stone. So we have evidence that it is possible for Bobby Miller to bounce back and have the type of season that Gavin Stone is having now. I think the potential is there. We've got a mailbag question. We'll get into Bobby Miller a little bit later. But I don't think there's enough time in the season to fix the types of things. And even listening to, I believe, was it Connor McGinnis, who had some quotes about Bobby Miller and just talking about, like, how some of his mechanics have been messed up because of all the injuries that you mentioned. Those don't sound like the type of things that you fix in a bullpen session in between starts. Those feel like the type of things you fix with a month of time to sort of navigate them. And so it's a bummer, because Bobby Miller has the potential to be an absolute stud for this team. It just appears that 2024 isn't going to be that year. We have another super chat here from Richard. He said, Dave and the Dodgers have lied to us about Glasnow. And Richard, I want to echo the sentiment that we should trust almost nothing that Dave Roberts tells us about injuries. Okay, I want to echo that. My only reason for believing Glasnow is very hurt is not because Dave Roberts said it. It's because of the timeline. I just don't see how faking the injury is going to bleed until the middle of September, and then you're going to bring him back for 1, maybe 2 starts before the postseason. I just feel like that's not the timeline that would make any sense for the Dodgers. It's not, Matt, because I believe that Dave Roberts tells us the truth.
Yeah, I mean, and Richard's not the only person who I've seen express this in our chat tonight. And I know that that's been a common thought on social media as well over recent weeks. I honestly thought we were sort of past that, just because, yes, like, I didn't believe what I was willing to believe at the time was, hey, his elbow's a little sore. They're choosing to just put him on the IL for a couple of weeks, when in reality he could potentially keep pitching. Like, that made sense. But at this point, after there's been, proverbial setbacks and delays and stuff like that, there's no way the Dodgers were going to give him a quote unquote break that's, like you said, that's going to last this long. If that was their plan, he would have been out the 15 days and he would have been back the day he was eligible, or the next day, however they wanted to line up the rotation to close out the season. Guys, like, I understand the hesitancy to trust injury updates and stuff like that, but this is not some sort of fake injury. This is not just the Dodgers looking to give Glasnow a breather heading into the playoffs. They, as Jeff said, they would much rather have him making, 2 or 3 starts heading into the postseason, rather than, again, best case scenario, he makes 2 at this point, if not 1, before the playoffs.
Yeah. And, like, the messaging of it, like Glasnow saying it wasn't a big deal, and then saying it actually, well, yeah, like, it was a big deal. Like, just the way they messaged it, if it was like, hey, we're going to put you on the injured list it just feels like the whole thing was clunky if this was fake. Again, I'm not saying the Dodgers are above that. It's definitely within the realm of possibilities. I am putting no stock in what Dave Roberts tells me. I am just watching what I'm seeing and saying, why is he still out? Why is he not playing catch if this is all just a facade?
Yeah, and I think the other thing with Glass now saying initially, like, it's kind of tightness. I could pitch through it, this and that. Like, he's a competitor. Like,
Yeah.
there are very few athletes out there that are going to say, yeah, no, I really can't play right now. And unless like their foot, like, or, shoulder has completely fallen off. So,
Yeah.
and I think it's also possible that the injury was worse than Glasnow initially believed and anticipate, which I think is clearly the case, considering he couldn't start playing catch when they sort of thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. So again, just to wrap up, put a bow on this segment, Matt. Knack, Stone, Flaherty, Buehler, Yamamoto, Miller. We both agree that if Glasnow or Kershaw were to come back, that Bobby Miller would be the odd man out of this 6-man rotation. Obviously, you're hoping that Yamamoto gets built up, that he and Flaherty become kind of the stalwarts here. Gavin Stone has been solid. Landon Knack, of course. Where are you at real quick on Walker Buehler? Like, give me a confidence level on Walker Buehler. Is it as confident as you felt about this guy all season, or has it sort of ebbed and flowed a little bit?
This is probably the most confident I've been in him, but
because that's what he has said about himself. He feels like he is the best version that he has been post-injury.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I mean, I think the results are proving that in some sense, and not that you want to predicate everything on results, because look, like a pitcher could go out there and say, "Yeah,
Whoa, Matt, you want some nerd stats? We want to look at nerds, so we want some hypotheticals here. If you don't want real results here, I've got a lot of hypotheticals for you.
We can hold off on those. But yeah, I am the most confident that I've been in Buehler, but it still is, relatively mild, like on a larger scale, just because his margin for error right now is still pretty small. And so if, one or two things kind of go wrong, then the whole start could go haywire.
Yeah. Since coming back, he has allowed 3, 3, 2, and 2 earned runs in his 4 starts since August 14th. So obviously, in a couple of those, he had more runs allowed that were not earned runs. He struggled with walks early on, but even the last 2, 10 strikeouts, just 3 walks, 10 hits allowed in 9 2/3. Like, nobody, again, if we're comparing Walker Buehler to former Cy Young candidate, #1 starter, you're going to be disappointed. But like, if we're comparing Walker Buehler to the #4 starters that it feels like we've seen the Dodgers trotting out there, #5 starters we've seen the Dodgers trotting out there for most of the season, it's hard not to be, at the very least, even if you're not confident, Matt, I don't know how you could be anything but encouraged by what we've seen from Walker Buehler lately.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's, like you said, it's been multiple starts now where he's sort of seemed to have figured it out. It's not necessarily just one, which we did see before, and then he sort of regressed. So yeah, I mean, it's just, I think just, you remain hopeful and optimistic, and he keeps sort of pitching this way. And who knows, with all the different injuries, he might be starting a playoff game for the Dodgers. And that's not something I think any of us would have predicted.
Matt, people want to know what sort of drinking or drugs we're doing tonight, because you just said the actual results don't matter, and we just want to see hypotheticals and some StatCast stuff.
I think there was some very loose interpretation of what I said. What I meant was, you don't always want to live in just results. Like, if you feel like
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
If you feel like you pitched well, like sometimes, a good fastball, we're going to get into it with Bobby Miller. Sometimes a good fastball gets hit over the fence for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's fair. There you have it, folks. Matt, not an entirely results-based business anymore. We love this.
It's the heat. It's the heat here in Southern California. I came back from Vegas and the weather followed me. It's not been fun.
Okay, so there you go. Vegas is the answer to all of your questions, people. He just slipped it in there. It has nothing to do with the heat. This man is he's only 3 days removed from a trip to Las Vegas. So he is thinking, he's thinking more clearly than he's ever thought, if we're being honest here. So there we go. Let's shift gears, Matt, and let's talk about a quote from Dave Roberts that I think I'll just classify. I'll start with interesting is the quote. He was asked about heightened expectations among the Dodgers and what it's like basically to manage a team that, hey, it's World Series or bust every single year. His quote was, quote, "It takes the fun out of it a little bit." I'll just leave it there. World Series expectations, quote, "take the fun out of it" for Dave Roberts. Your thoughts?
Surprising, as I alluded to, hearing him speak, kind of candidly about different topics is Dave Roberts is very careful with what he says and how he says things. He's mindful of what he's going to put out there. For him to say this, and it was Barry Bloom who got this quote, and Barry is somebody that has been around Dave Roberts for decades, both as a player and now a manager. So there is a comfortable relationship that the two share, and I think that's part of the reason why we got a quote like this from him. I can understand it logically, like, yes, having to, playing with the weight of I'm exaggerating, the weight of the world on your shoulders and on your team, like that can become tiring. As my own competitor growing up playing sports, still trying to play basketball and stuff like that, like, to me, winning is what's fun. Like, so I just feel like if you're winning, and the Dodgers have only won one World Series, I get that. But if you're winning during the regular season, like, then you're having fun. Like, worry about the rest of the stuff later. But yeah, I mean, I this didn't necessarily go over too well with, I know, a lot of fans as we're seeing. But yeah, that's interesting. It surprised me.
I'm going to defend Dave in this quote here a little bit. And I don't think he's saying that having bad World Series or bust expectations is a bad thing. I don't think he's saying he would rather manage a team that stinks, that like a win on a Tuesday is like the greatest thing ever and everybody's happy for 3 days. I do think there is something to the idea that if this team does not win the World Series, it is pure negativity. It is pure disappointment. And we should be. Like, it is a disappointment if the Dodgers don't win the World Series. I want to be clear about that. But I can imagine as the manager how that makes this a really, really a job that isn't fun, to use his own word. Because we've even seen it this year, Matt. This team goes on like a 3-game losing streak and the sky is falling. And it's just negativity and it's anger and it's frustration and it's disappointment. And I do think there is something that gets lost when the only way to be happy is to win a World Series. You miss a lot of checkpoints along the way. Like, I remember in my lifetime, Matt, when making the playoffs was an accomplishment that made me happy. I remember when winning a division was an accomplishment that made me really, really happy. I remember I spent the first 16 years of my life not seeing this team win a playoff game, let alone a playoff series. And so I think there are checkpoints along the way that used to be fun. Like, imagine 15 years ago if I would have told myself, hey, the Dodgers are going to have a 5 or 6 game lead in the beginning of September in the division. I'd be thrilled. I'd be like, oh my gosh, what a fun season that must have been. How many people, Matt, describe this season that we're living through right now fun? Like, what lie is Dave Roberts saying here?
It's not a lie, but what I will say is Dave has created a clubhouse culture where they do celebrate a lot of the stuff along the way. And he has also said, like, it's important to do that. And the players have recognized that and done that. And so he has, like, he's not managing or taking, each game like as World Series or bust type thing. Like, who cares that we just won, 5 games in a row because we need to do this in October. So he has done that. So that's why, like, you're giving him a little bit of benefit of the doubt. That's why I'm kind of going the other way, because I know that is the approach he takes with the players in the clubhouse. So to then say, like, it's not as fun, I kind of think, like, well, like, winning is fun. So like, sure, like, it kind of sucks, I guess, to have that pressure all the time. But would you rather be on the other side where you're managing the White Sox and Miguel Vargas is playing for you and you guys are, losing however many games in a row?
Yeah, and to be clear, he didn't say that was fun either.
Sure.
Right? Here's an analogy I'll use. Like, I went to the University of Oregon, and my freshman year at the University of Oregon was basically the year right before the Chip Kelly dynasty took off. So my freshman year at the University of Oregon was a season in that school where making a bowl game was an accomplishment. Everyone was fired up. My freshman year, we made the Las Vegas Bowl. People were fired up. And going to Duck games that season, I vividly remember how different it is, because fast forward 3 years and they're playing in the national championship and the Rose Bowl. And it's like, if the Ducks lose a single game, the whole thing is over with, because you lose one game in college football, not anymore, 12-team playoff, whatever. You lose one game and it felt like the whole season was over. And so you went into every game not like enjoying the ride and like, wow, if we win, this is going to be fun. It was like, please don't lose, please don't lose, please don't lose. There was this weight that was like dread of like, oh my gosh, if this is the game we lose, what's going to happen? And I feel like the Dodgers, there's a parallel to that. Like, winning is not success, but losing is failure. That feels like the mode that the Dodgers are in when it comes to the expectations they have. And that's got to be really hard because basically for 9 months, the only thing the Dodgers could do is fail because they can't succeed until October. So for March, 6 months, March through August, there is no victories. There is no success. There is no fun allowed because unless they win in October, we're going to be told that none of this matters. And I think that's kind of the essence of what Dave Roberts is getting at.
Yeah, perhaps. And I think, to your point, I guess it just depends on what your starting point is with each, kind of individual fan, so to speak. If you're somebody who, I think both things can be true. There can be fun. There have been fun moments throughout this season. Shohei Ohtani chasing 50-50. That's great. Like literally historic. Like that's something that should be enjoyed and appreciated. Tyler Glass now having a dominant start on a random Tuesday in May. Like that's fun to see and to appreciate at the time. So I think you should be able to enjoy those, have fun in those moments without necessarily needing to fully sacrifice or lose sight of the bigger picture or really worry too much about it. Like, in the middle of May, I know Dave Roberts might manage sometimes like he is looking towards October, but a game in the middle of the May, like you don't necessarily need to worry, what is this going to mean for game 2 of the NLDS, right? Like there's still a ton of time. And so I get your point. And again, I think it really boils down to each individual fan and person. Like, how are you approaching that season? Because to me, like, for me, ultimately, if the Dodgers don't win a World Series this year, it will be like kind of another like failure of a season type thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that I didn't appreciate or enjoy some of the quote unquote fun or moments along the way.
Yeah. I mean, look, if Dave Roberts like 3 weeks ago had come out and said, man, I'm having so much fun this season, I don't feel like that would have gone over. Like, I think people would have been like, how could you be having fun? Like, this team's disappointing, blah, blah, blah.
I think probably, and that wouldn't have been totally fair. I think if he would have maybe, if that's the message he would have sent out, if it would have been based on, hey, like we've ran away with the NL West a lot of times. This season, we're not doing it. That's a different challenge. That's fun. Like, I think I think that would have gone over better than just saying this is the most fun I've ever had. And like, they're struggling with all the injuries and stuff. Yeah. And maybe at that point it's semantics, but I would hope that if he did say it from the standpoint of like, we're being pushed by the Diamondbacks and the Padres are playing well now and this and that, like, this is fun. This is good for baseball. Like I would understand that more than honestly, like his quote of saying the World Series expectations take some of the fun out of things for him.
Yeah. It's an interesting quote. As you said, people are reacting to this as expected. I saw the headline. I was like, oh my goodness, Dave. Like, I might agree with you, but still, that's kicking a hornet's nest, what it feels like, for absolutely no reason. So I'd love to hear from people what your thoughts are, because I assume that will be a lively conversation, to say the least. Let's get to some questions here. We'll start with a couple mailbag questions that we got on social media, Matt, and then you or I, one of us, will try our best to get to some of the questions, sort of flag those that are getting thrown in the chat as we do. Let's start with this one. Arthur on social media, on Twitter, says, what's the deal with Bobby Miller's fastball? I think all 3 of the homers he gave up last night were on fastballs, which seemed to be in a great spot. Not middle, but right on the inner edge of the strike zone. Does his fastball have no, quote, rise? There were some interesting post-game quotes from the Dodgers coaching staff, so I'll let you take this. There's one quote in particular that jumped out to me, but I'll let you kind of paint the big picture before I sort of hone in on what I thought was the most interesting. So what did the Dodgers coaches say about that fastball, about his pitch mix after the debacle against the Angels?
So I don't necessarily have something specific from the coaches.
Okay.
What I do, we'd have to double check. I could go through and see maybe what Dave Roberts said. What I did have pulled up though was Bobby Miller discussing it. And, he said that he was feeling really good going into that start. And aside from the first inning, there was, quote, a lot of good in there. To the fastball specifically, he said, quote, just a couple good fastball hitters, couple bad pitch selections. I could go back and look and be like, yeah, I threw those balls on the corner, but there's some good fastball hitters and I threw the wrong pitch at the wrong time. They put some good swings on some not really bad pitches. So Arthur was correct in, identifying that the fastball was what was hit for home runs. That was something that Bobby Miller, as I just, relayed in his quotes, he was certainly aware of. What's interesting is he doesn't seem like he was overly upset with it per se. It was more of kind of the falling behind in counts and becoming predictable with needing to go to the fastball. And he also mentioned, the walks and hit by pitch that set up the 3-run homer. Like that stuff being more of an issue than the actual home run, because had he just given up a solo homer, the pitchers typically abide by solo home runs won't beat you. Lance Lynn might disagree, but I digress.
Here was the quote. I found the Dave Roberts quote. This is from Fabian Ardaya at The Athletic. Quote, "It's a fastball that hitters see. It either has to be commanded really well and moved to different locations, or you have to be able to get ahead with different breaking balls. That's just the way it goes. And if you can't do that, then the catcher is in a tough spot. We have to get better." That was his quote about Bobby Miller. And I think that's the key to me. The fastball is hard. It grades out well when you look at Stuff Plus metrics, which I know Matt likes. It's one of the top, I think it's like 50 fastballs in Major League Baseball. When you factor in how many relief pitchers and starters have thrown more than 40 innings, that's not insignificant standing. And yet he's not throwing anything else for strikes. So I think it was Taylor Ward in the same article. Fabian had the quote where he was basically like, yeah, we were just hunting the heater, which is exactly his quote. Definitely hurt the heater, Ward said. Ron Washington, when he did make a mistake in the zone, we didn't miss it. I mean, that's the game plan. Don't worry about any of the off-speed stuff because he can't throw it for strikes. So if you see breaking ball, if you see changeup, leave it alone, because the 100-mile-an-hour fastball is 100, but it's going to be in the zone. And even if it's located well, Matt, people are going to crush it.
Yeah, and what's ironic is, as Miller started to improve and use his secondary pitches, that was when the results got better during them, because he had the bad first inning, obviously, and it kind of, you don't want to say the game was over at that point, but it did get away from the Dodgers a little bit. But then he did settle in before giving up then another home run. And one of the reasons he settled in, which Dave Roberts highlighted, was using some of his off-speed pitches.
Yeah. And I see somebody in the chat asking, didn't he criticize Austin Barnes? He said he did think it was a pitch selection thing, but he said it was a pitch selection thing on my part and just not executing. So I didn't read any of that as a shot at the catcher. Pitch selection now, obviously the catcher is the first step in pitch selection, but he has the opportunity to shake that off and hit his spots. And apparently he took those two things and used them to his advantage. Let's get to a couple more from social media here. This is a random one. John wants to know who's going to be the backup catcher next year, Matt. Is Austin Barnes sticking around? Or is it Hunter Fiducia time?
No, it's obviously Austin Barnes. He's having a resurgent season, so he's going to stick around at least one more year.
You don't think someone's going to pay him big bucks?
I think he likes the setup he has with the Dodgers, and he understands his importance as being a captain for the team and, really guiding the pitching staff.
Somebody told me, I had a little birdie that indicated there, and I'm blanking on all the numbers here. There's a number where if you play a certain number of seasons in Major League Baseball, maybe it's 10, you get like a full pension or something like that. And Austin Barnes is nearing it. So there was a rumor that I heard that Austin Barnes was wanting just to make sure. Now, this was before he hit so well this season, but he just wanted to make sure that he got to that number. I think you're right. I think he values living in Los Angeles. I just think if you're the Dodgers, like, what are you going to do with Hunter Fiducia? Just keep sending this guy back to AAA when he might be a better catcher than Austin Barnes right now. So who knows? But give me Hunter Fiducia. That's my answer there. Voms wants to know which team is more dangerous, Padres or Diamondbacks. I believe San Diego with their two strike-throwing starters, Cease and King, solid relievers, and roster full of contact hitters might be the best team now. I've long been San Diego scares me more than Arizona. Yes, you can accuse me of just taking the name brand guys over the guys that maybe have been better, but I'm going to stick with it. The Padres scare me more than the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and just a lot of it is from the standpoint of, like you said, kind of the upside, the talent, the potential there. I think they're certainly a bigger threat, but I'm not going to overlook either NL West opponent this year.
Okay.
They've caught my attention.
Yeah, fair enough. We were famously low on the Diamondbacks last year. We'll just say that. Laura, friend of the show, wants to know, what is the Dodgers come from behind record when down 4 or more runs and when they are losing after the 6th inning? We don't have those two stats specifically, I don't think, but you do have a couple, Matt, from the Dodgers. So come from behind record and then losing after the 6th inning.
Yes. So when they are trailing after the 6th inning this season, they are 9-42. So not
Which
great.
Sounds
obviously.
about right. I can't imagine teams are like hovering around 500 when they're losing that late. I will add, by the way, I have a couple numbers to throw at you. The Dodgers are 18-17 in one-run games. So that's actually like one of the, that's the 14th best record in one-run games for what it's worth. So if we're talking about coming from behind and making it close and then not faring especially well. Those two numbers seem to go hand in hand.
Yeah, and to Laura's other question, we didn't have the specific stat, but what I can say is when they've allowed 4 or more runs in a game this season, they're 23 and 45. And unfortunately, the information we were provided there wasn't a comparison to other teams in baseball, but I think kind of just deducing everything and sort of playing this all out, the Dodgers have the best record right now. Still, I guess I'd have to double check what happened with the Phillies, but one of the best records in baseball at the very least.
Worst case, they'd be tied with the Phillies.
And so I don't imagine that you get there without necessarily being like, I find it hard to believe that they would be like a full outlier in some of the stats that Laura asked us to pull.
Yeah, I'm with you. Checking to see real quick if we can get a Phillies score. They won 5-2. So I don't know if Baseball Reference, which is what I'm looking at right now, has updated that. Let's see if
probably not. I know MLB is usually pretty quick.
It's so annoying to figure out which one of these update in real time. So they are 84 and 56. So they're tied with the Dodgers for the best record in baseball. Here's an interesting stat for you, Matt. The Dodgers tied with the Padres, but they are the two best teams in baseball over the last 30 games. So in their last 30, the Dodgers are 21 and 9. So again, it cracks me up because I'm not, this is not me pointing fingers, except at myself. It feels like the Padres and Diamondbacks have been so much better than the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are hanging on for dear life. They are literally the best team in baseball over the entirety of the season and the best team in baseball over the last 30 games as well. If you want to go last 20 games, they are tied for the third best record in Major League Baseball at 13 and 7. And that is better than the San Diego Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks, both of whom are 12 and 8. So in the last 20, they have gained ground in the division. In the last 30, they have gained ground in the division. Obviously, if you go back a little bit to 45 games or something like that, I'm sure those stats are crazy. So that's what we've got as far as some of those questions from Twitter. So thank you to the folks that sent those in. Let's get to some of the questions from right here in the chat. Let's see. Scott wants to know, Matt, do you think they're going to let Knack pitch deeper into games if he is effective? Because they haven't yet. It does feel like he has been pitching actually deep into games. I mean, I guess depending on your definition. No, he's right. 5 is the most he's thrown since April 24th. He went 6. So he's gone more than 5 innings just one time through 64 pitches, 4 innings last time out. So my bad on that one, Scott. You were right. Do you think that's sort of a blip in the radar? We're talking 78 pitches, 4 1/3, 85 pitches, 4 1/3, 76 pitches, 4 2/3. Do you think Knack is becoming a guy that they let go into the 6th inning, see the lineup a third time?
Not yet. And not on Friday. Maybe if he makes another start for them and he's pitching well, that they potentially let him start the 6th inning. But I would be surprised if he completes 6 full innings, however many times he pitches for them to finish out this year.
Yeah, because it feels like it's just like the seeing teams for a third time, right? Like it's the Blake Snell deal where you're definitely not going to trust a young guy in that spot. Is that sort of where you're at?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's early into his career. They probably want him to refine, to have more pitches, more options, because that's where you get in trouble, right? Is when you're seeing a lineup the third time and you're, fastball, curveball reliant, and they know to kind of just sit on those two.
Dave with the question, who's been better post-trade deadline, Kopech or Tanner Scott? I don't know how to use Baseball Reference or Savant. Fangraphs, also a great option for you. I mean, they've both been good. Tanner Scott, 17 appearances for the Padres, 16 innings, 2.25 ERA. The strikeouts per 9 has gone down a tick, but the walks per 9 have gone from 5.3 to 2.3. So good stuff from him on that front. The ERA has gone up, but the FIP has gone down. I mean, like, he's been really, really good. There's one major difference, Matt, between these two players. 2 major differences, I should say. One of them is under team control for an additional year, and one of them cost infinitely less than the other guy, maybe. So as far as player to player, I'd say it's probably about a push, although Kopech statistically has probably been better. I don't think the Padres are disappointed. That said, Kopech is a Dodger for next year and cost very little, let's just say.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to be upset. I mean, you can't be upset with what the Dodgers have gotten from Kopech.
Here's a question for you, Matt. Derek wants to know, What percentage of Dave's decisions in game are completely made by Dave, and what percentage is influenced by Dodgers brass / Andrew Friedman? So let me break this down. Maybe this is easier. When Dave Roberts makes a pitching change, goes to the bullpen, do you think that's a decision that Dave Roberts is making greater than 95% of the time?
Yes, from the standpoint of like Andrew Friedman is not calling the dugout and saying, hey, so-and-so is at 65 pitches. You have that batter coming up fifth in the inning. Get, a reliever ready. All of that being said, the front office has put together a wealth of information that Dave Roberts and his coaching staff have reviewed on pitching matchups and who should face who, and starting pitcher's effectiveness after X amount of pitches or third time through the lineup, whatever.
Yeah.
So, like, Dave Roberts makes the in-game decision solely by himself. There is not Andrew Friedman, Brandon Gomes calling down into the dugout, walking into the dugout. But he's making those decisions with a bunch of information that has been provided to him by an expansive Dodgers front office. So, Nomo, Derek, you're in here with us all the time. However you want to divvy up those percentages, by all means, go for it. But that's the best way I can answer that question.
Yeah, I think I will say, I'm guessing there are conversations between the front office and Dave Roberts ahead of games saying like, because relievers have talked about, typically they go in with an expectation of like, hey, I'm probably going to come to you for the sixth. Like those types of premeditated decisions, I imagine the front office has more input on. But when it's like, hey, this guy's at 4 2/3 and there's 2 runners on, are we going to leave him in or pull him? I think that's a Dave Roberts gut decision. I would say the same with pinch hitting. I feel like, again, the front office is prepped like, hey, we like Kike Hernandez against this lefty. We like so-and-so against this righty. But time, situation, moment in the game, obviously there are so many variables in play. There's no way the front office could possibly be dictating all of those decisions, right?
Yeah, no, there's no way. And so, like I said, they do prepare. I'm sure they cover, 99 possibilities, but if there is 100th option that emerges that they didn't necessarily prepare for, then Dave Roberts is literally on his own in some regard. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of preparation before, not anything happening really during a game.
We got a super chat. Shelly had a super chat and then left this. So Shelly, thank you for the super chat. She says, I love this show. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Shelly. We love getting to do this show. Let's be honest. And so thank you to all of you who are in here, almost 1,000 people on an off night during the first NFL game of the season, as Matt made sure to clarify, not the first game of the season. But thank you all for being in here and being a part of the show, of this community. It's been a lot of fun for us. And so we appreciate all of you for going ahead and joining us in here. Let's get to some more questions here. Noisy Ninja wants to know, we didn't have pitching last year. We came into this season with pitching and now are hobbling into October. Is there any belief the Dodgers try to bring back Buehler for a year? I would put this at under 10% chance, Matt.
I think it's right around 10. And this is, Daniel and I, we got this. I don't know if it was Noisy Ninja who may have asked us last night, but we did get a couple Buehler questions. And, if there's a scenario where he would come back, given the pitching depth the Dodgers have on paper, I think it wouldn't fully surprise me if the Dodgers say, hey, we'll do a 1-year deal, maybe 1 year with a team option, bunch of incentives. This is what we're willing to pay you, kind of take it or leave it type thing. And I know that the rotation looks good next year in terms of who should be available. But as Noisy Ninja pointed out, we've now seen multiple years in a row where the Dodgers appeared to have plenty of starters and have sort of run out by the time the playoffs have kind of gotten here. So if Buehler is, an option depth piece, it wouldn't fully surprise me.
I don't think he's coming back. And the reason is, yes, the Dodgers never seem to have enough pitching. Okay. So let's just look at who's coming back. Glasnow coming back. Yamamoto coming back. Pencil those 2 guys in, right? Top of the rotation. Gavin Stone will be back. Landon Knack will be back. Bobby Miller will be back. Emmett Sheehan will be back. Nick Frassa will be back. Tony Gonsolin will be back. Dustin May will be back. There's 7 more. So now we're up to 9. I think they're re-signing Jack Flaherty. That's 10. Yeah. We haven't even talked about, never mind. I'll leave that one alone. There's 10. And then Clayton Kershaw has a option on his contract for next year. So he is more under contract than Walker Buehler would be. He would be number 11. So River Ryan, who will miss all of, if not most of the season, is another guy. I didn't mention Robleski. I didn't mention Ben Kasparius, two more guys who made their debuts this year. So my point is, I don't think you bring back a guy like Walker Buehler to pitch in front of 8 of the guys that I just mentioned. Like, I think going out and signing a Jack Flaherty would make sense. Roki Sasaki's going to be a name people are going to mention. Like, a guy like that, a guy that you're penciling into the top 2 or 3 in your rotation, great. I just don't think there's going to be a roster spot. Now, I've been wrong. It was James Paxton this past year. It was Noah Syndergaard the year before. Like, maybe Walker Buehler is that in that lane of innings eater, mediocre, low cost type thing. But I just look at all of the pitching depth. Am I missing somebody, Matt? They just have so many guys.
Yeah, everybody's yelling at you that you missed Ohtani.
Oh, right. Thank you. I knew there was a guy. I was like, there's somebody else who didn't pitch this year that I feel like is coming back. Yeah, him, by the way. One of the best pitchers in baseball. So yeah, him too.
That's a lot of depth. That's a lot of pitchers. To your point, if everybody is healthy, yes. At what we've seen from Walker Buehler, you're probably not slotting him in front of a lot of those guys. What I would caution is how many of them are coming off of not only injury, but significant surgeries. And so that's where I think maybe the door is open, either like potentially from the standpoint of the Dodgers might want to be cautious with that. Like, they're not all going to be available for a full season. And even with that, they do have enough options without Buehler to sort of balance that depth. But I think, if he continues kind of trending in the right direction well enough to finish this season, that there's about a 10% chance that he is back with the Dodgers next year.
Kyle Hurt, by the way, another name that was not mentioned, who's been up at the AAA level. If you want to go further down the prospect tree, Jackson Ferris is a guy who's been promoted to AA. He will not be ready at the beginning of the year, but we've seen lots of Dodgers pitchers go from AA to AAA and sink to the majors in one season. So Ferris could be another guy on that track. So I just think, I know every year, same thing. I get it. I just don't think that they're going to spend. Because, I mean, what would you be surprised if Walker Buehler got a $10 million 1-year contract from somebody?
No. And if it gets to that point, I don't think that that's the Dodgers.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. We've got a super chat here, and it's a great question. JC wants to know your favorite Dodgers bobblehead that you own. As you can see.
Yeah, we're both going to have to turn around right now.
I don't have to turn around. Let's see if I can point to it. Right there. It's the furthest away, but it's on the top shelf. And it's Eric Gagne, Cy Young award-winning bobblehead. I freaking loved Gagne. It was a dream come true when he came on the show. It was a bucket list interview. He came on. I love that one. Let's see. Kershaw batting is a funny one. Like, it's just a random dumb one. Obviously, Vin Scully. Come on now. Will Smith, my guy. I've got 2 Vin Scully ones up there. So, and actually, I'll just keep naming a couple because there's 2 that I purchased. Like, I went out of my way to go buy these. They were not given to me or at a game or anything. Corey Seager holding the World Series trophy with the World Series MVP. Amazing. And then I went and bought a Puig bobblehead too. Love Puig. I got some good ones here. Manny Ramirez next to him. So I don't know. I just named 12. Sorry, JC. I didn't answer the question. Gagne. That's my answer.
I mean, you have 12 favorites. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I tell my kids. Not that I have 12 kids, but 3 kids. They're all my favorite.
For me, I do have one of the Vince Scully ones that they did. That's up there. My Justin Turner one is I was fortunate enough to get it autographed right before he left. So that's a cool one. And then I have Kershaw holding from the World Series ring ceremony. And then Foco did one of him running in and kind of like a World Series 2020 design. And this is also an opportunity to kind of shout out Foco. They send us a lot of great bobbleheads. If you want to check them out, we do have a link in the description of all this. But yeah, so I think the 2 Kershaw ones, Vince Scully, Justin Turner are up there for me.
What's the most random bobblehead, Matt, that is behind you? Like, do you have any obscure players behind you?
Well, just Joe Kelly in his mariachi jacket. Does that count as obscure enough?
I mean, like, I'm looking over here. Look, folks, I have more bobbleheads that don't even. I don't have room behind me. Hung-Chi Kuo. I've got a Hung-Chi Kuo. Love that guy. Hung Cheesy. I I don't know why I have a Howie Kendrick bobblehead. It's missing the bat, which feels appropriate in many ways, not on purpose. But yeah, Hung-Chi Kuo, I think and yes, Hawaiian Kira, to answer your question. You better believe we got Hideo Nomo over here, right next to Sean Green and Andre Ethier. So he's on the side over here. I've got tiers, Matt. So top level up here are like current players, plus Gagne, my favorite, and Vince Scully because he's a legend. This one right here, closest. These are like random favorite: Hanley Ramirez, Manny Ramirez, Yasiel Puig. Then we've got Seager, Kershaw batting, Mookie Betts playing the infield. Bottom, we've got Gavin Stone, star rookie. I don't know if you knew about that. Star rookie from last year wearing number 71. That's a collector's item. Freddie Freeman. I've got a lot of Freddie Freeman bobbleheads. Dustin May, Trey Turner sliding, which I think is a cool one. Matt Kemp up against the wall. So we got that. And then we got Ethier, Sean Green, and Hideo Nomo up here. I got some sweet Raiders bobbleheads there too. And then my random ones are up on the there. And there's one player that sadly, for a number of reasons, has been relegated to the closet. They were cool bobbleheads, but no dice getting on screen time.
Yeah. There's I don't have as much space, unfortunately. So the one shelf that you guys
can make space, Matt. That's the key, baby.
Yeah,
you can throw some more shelves up there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. So right now, I went more selective with ones that I wanted to put up, and then the shelf that you can't see unless I go like this, the shorter one, that's exclusively Kershaw. So I may have to rearrange some things if I want to fit more up there. So no obscure players for me just yet.
Padres just gave up a go-ahead grand slam in the 9th inning to lose 4-3.
What a shame.
So apologies to Blake for having to see that one. Doesn't hate the Padres. So thank you for the super chat. Sorry for the 17-minute rant on bobbleheads. Don't get me started on that. Let's see. Tom, I know the Dodgers want to keep May and Miller as starters as long as possible. Do you think they could ever have success as bullpen pieces 2025 and beyond? I think Dustin May would be electric out of the bullpen. I also think Dustin May could still be electric as a starting pitcher. Bobby's an interesting one because he throws hard, but like if you can't throw off-speed stuff for strikes, clearly the fastball is not fooling anybody. So it grades out well. He's a weird one. On paper, the nerd stats, Matt, would tell you Bobby Miller would make sense. And yet the actual eye test performance, which I know you don't like real performance, but the old Matt who liked performance would say that Bobby Miller does not profile as a reliever.
Yeah, what concerns me with both of them are the walks. And really, look, I get the sentiment, Tom. This is, kind of looking, he does mention literally 2025, which I think at that point the Dodgers that would be the earliest where they're making, I think, a decision like this on either one of the two guys. But I mean, frankly, in a perfect world, hopefully that they become Dustin May was pitching well. Like, give him that credit. Like, before he got hurt, we were starting to see some consistency, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess like for your reasons, because of some of the limitations we've seen with Bobby Miller's pitch mix right now, that he might be the better option in the bullpen, but also the walks would be concerning.
Yeah. I'm with you. Let's see. Javier wants to know, what do you think of placing Knack and Buehler on the playoff roster as multiple inning relievers? Knack is not going to make the playoff roster. I don't think that's a bold prediction. I don't see him. I think Buehler's going to make it in one role or another. Like, I could see him as either the fourth starter slipping into that role somehow or being the long guy. I've said all along I don't see him as a reliever, but I just think, like, I could just see a role is all I'm saying.
I don't know if he would be a reliever just from the standpoint of he is openly said that he just can't, like, he doesn't have a routine. He doesn't handle coming out of the bullpen. That's going to
change. When he sees the writing on the wall, it's going to be like, you know what? I think that was taken out of context. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I could definitely do it, just to be clear.
Yeah, that is certainly a big caveat. So, like, since the last time he said that, a lot has changed for him, unfortunately. So yeah, maybe he becomes more open if they say, hey, this is how we need you. Like, one thing that Walker has also always said, especially this season, is that he wants to be able to contribute and help the team win. And so if they say this is kind of how we see you fit best, then, I think he'll certainly be more open to it than he was a few years ago.
Okay, let's get to some rapid fire ones. Aaron says, will Mookie be allowed to move to second, his preferred position next year? Hallelujah. Similar question. Is Lux staying as a forever Dodger, or do they prioritize Mookie's health and move him back to second? Your answer, Matt.
I think if the Dodgers find the right trade, they will move Gavin Lux.
You're talking about the Gavin Lux, who's actually a better hitter than Mookie Betts over the last couple months, right?
Yes. They will sell. They will look to sell high on Gavin Lux. It wouldn't shock me.
Gavin Lux will be the Dodgers starting second baseman next year and for the next 4 years. That's my prediction. He's going to be there. We have the Mookie quotes. He wants to do whatever it takes to win. Like I'm on an island on my Mookie Betts opinions. I just like all of this stuff about I understand what the plan was. Mookie's going to play the outfield. Gavin Lux is going to play second base. Everyone's going to be kumbaya and happy. That's my prediction for next year. You disagree though.
It's more from the standpoint of I think the Mookie moving to second base was initiated a little bit by the Dodgers. I think they saw how much he enjoys it. Like he made that pretty clear, but I think the Dodgers also looked at it as we invested a lot in this guy and there's a lot more years on this contract. Let's keep him healthy. And so that's why I think what's changing, credit to Gavin Lux, that is the answer of what's changed. And Gavin Lux has been amazing during the second half, but I don't know if the Dodgers will want to sacrifice Mookie's future to that extent.
Yeah, I know I said rapid fire and I keep coming back. I think the Dodgers' plan for Mookie in second base involved believing that Gavin Lux was going to be able to play shortstop. And we all agree on that one. Okay. I'm just saying Gavin Lux has now put up multiple seasons as a well above average offensive player. And yes, I know that technically this season he's a 102 weighted runs created plus, slightly above. Okay. He was a 113 weighted runs created plus in 2022 in 129 games. He's now above average. He's been one of the best hitters in baseball for the last 2.5 months. I just, for a team that has the contracts they have, to have this guy under team control for the number of seasons that they still have him under team control for, I just don't see. He's a free agent in 2027. Why would they trade this guy and then have to go fill that spot in the order, in the lineup? I know Mookie would play second, then you got to go sign a right fielder. I just don't see it. Shelly wants to know, will Kevin Kiermaier make the playoff roster? Speaking of controversial Jeff opinions, let's just get them all out of the way in one spot. I am going to stick to my guns, Matt, and say no. I think Andy Pages gets the last spot on the postseason roster. That's my answer.
Wouldn't fully surprise me, but I think Kiermaier ends up earning it for kind of the defensive part, because I don't think also he would be on the team right now if they weren't looking at sort of playoff decisions. I think
Fair.
They probably would have just kept Hayward.
Fair. Scott wants to know, Ohtani or Lindor for MVP? Go.
Yeah, I mean, Ohtani, we've discussed this on a few of our videos. I get Lindor, credit to him for, rebounding from a bad start to the season. But again, what Ohtani is potentially accomplishing is, well, what he has already done has never been done before.
Yeah.
And if you get to the nice round number of 50-50, what else is left to do?
This thing's been locked and loaded. Game over. Eric Gagne in the middle of his streak for a month, according to Vegas. And Vegas is never wrong. Tom wants to know, do we forgive the Tigers for what they did to the Dodgers now because of that grand slam in San Diego? Sure. All is forgiven, Detroit. You forgive them, Matt?
Yeah. I had honestly, it took me a second to remember what we were going to have to forgive them for.
Yeah.
But yes, I certainly do.
Yeah. Rod wants to know, how confident are you the Dodgers will have 4 good and healthy starters? So, I mean, depends on your definition of Flaherty, Stone, Yamamoto, all definitely qualify. Do those 3 qualify as good? Is Stone a good pitcher?
I mean, yes, but is he going to consistently be pitching?
Okay.
I want to say good, but well.
So your answer is definitely no then, because you only have 3 good pitchers on the Dodgers roster, even if they're all healthy, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my answer to Rod's question is not very confident at all.
Flaherty, Yamamoto, Glass now, if he comes back, and Stone. And I think Stone's been good. So sure, give me 4. We had a good food question here, and then I want a Vegas report from you. Richard, KFC, Raising Cane's, or Popeyes? Can only choose one. What's the go-to?
Oh, this is so easy. It's Raising Cane's.
Yeah. Okay. I was terrified you were going to say something else.
No.
I live in Portland, as some people know. There is one Raising Cane's, I believe, in the entire state. It is in downtown Portland, which is a mess to try and find parking in the basement food court of a mall. It is quite literally the worst location in the history of all locations. To get to this place requires finding a parking spot, 2 escalators, a 15-minute walk. It's a disaster. I went to Raising Cane's today in downtown Portland because I was down there. Caniac combo, gave one strip to my daughter, so I only took down 5, didn't take down all the fries. No coleslaw, extra fries, pay for the extra sauce, unsweetened iced tea with the lemon. Absolutely incredible. Abso-freaking-lutely incredible, man.
And it unfortunately looks like you and I are on an island by ourselves based off the chat responses. Everybody is saying Popeyes.
Popeyes is great. KFC is like a mile in third. Like not even in the picture. It's like the 100-meter dash. KFC fell down, is rolling around, didn't even make it out of the blocks. Okay, they're not in the screen. The Popeyes chicken sandwich is amazing. Amazing.
So I don't think I had that. I had Popeyes twice though a few years ago because people told me that it was good, and I thought, okay, maybe I just didn't appreciate it. I didn't care for it, so Popeyes is out for me.
So KFC, you have KFC ahead of Popeyes?
Oh yeah, but it's like I'll get like a random craving for like fried chicken from KFC. It's not anywhere I go with like regularity, but I mean, so it's not like it's not.
I remember seeing an ad for the chicken sandwich right after Popeyes came out with theirs, and again, I think Popeyes is fantastic. So I'm like, you know what? I'll try it. It was like, I wish I had taken a photo of how pathetic and depressing this sandwich looked. It tasted the same. KFC, if you put it in front of me, I'll eat it. I'll crush a drumstick, some mac and cheese, some biscuits. Like, sign me up for all that. I'm just saying, Raising Cane's by a mile, Popeyes in second by 10 miles, and then KFC above the edible line, but not by a ton. This Mike is just trying to incite just debate. I mean, we've had this debate. I forget who are you the defender of the habit?
No, not me.
So there's one person who I feel like defends the habit and places it in rarefied air. The habit is fine.
Yeah, I can't remember who did it on our staff.
My dad loves the habit, and I'm just like, yes, it's fine. Like, it's fine.
It is fine. I don't go to the habit very often, but when I do, I get chicken Caesar salad. So I think that tells you.
You want a hot take here, Matt? I think Wendy's is better than the habit.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd go to Carl's before I'd go to the habit.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not sure if McDonald's is above it.
I think it is.
Okay, there you go.
Because if you go to McDonald's, like, you're craving kind of something very specific that McDonald's is known for in terms of like quality and freshness. Like, no, like you're gonna get a better meal at the habit in that regard. But if there's only one Big Mac out there, there's only one, quarter pounder out there.
Yeah. The Big Mac I remember as a child, like I've gotten Big Mac sometimes recently, and I'm just like, this isn't how I remember it. It's good. It's not how I remember it. We'll just leave it there. Man, Noisy Ninja says can't trust food recommendations if he likes Raising Cane's. Blake meets your criteria then, because nobody loves Raising Cane's quite like Blake, and I would say you shouldn't trust him. Scott, double Western bacon cheeseburger. That's Matt's love language right there.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm with you. My famous double Western bacon cheeseburger story. I can't remember if I've told this. My senior year of high school. I know there's a guy from my high school in the chat. I ran cross country. And I was very bad my sophomore, junior, and junior year. Senior year, I got dramatically faster. No steroids, I promise. No drugs involved. And I was in really good shape. Like, I was running sub 19-minute 5Ks. So that's about 6:20 pace for 3.1 miles, roughly, is where I was at. The last day, the last day of the season, like one day after the season ended, they called the Golden Mile, and they let everybody run the fastest mile you will ever run in your life. It was like, you are never going to be in better shape of your life than right now. So we're going to put you on the track, a nice, whatever, I forget what they call it, the chart and track or whatever. Electric timing. We're going to do the whole thing. I'm like, great. I'm fired up. My goal, Matt, was sub 5-minute mile. I was like, I'm going to run a sub 5-minute mile. Here's how 17-year-old Jeff's an idiot, Matt. There's lots of reasons, but here's number one. 3 hours before this race, I ate a double Western bacon cheeseburger from Carl's. And I ran a 5:08, cramping the whole last 250 meters, and I hated it. It was the dumbest, and I've never broken 5. That was my that was my moment right there, Matt. And I just could not say no to the double Western. I couldn't say no.
I mean, it's understandable. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that can really.
It's crazy. It's crazy. All right. I want give me something from Vegas, Allegiant Stadium, the Raiders Stadium, USC beats LSU. I hate USC. I also don't like LSU, so it was not the outcome I wanted, but I don't hate it. So how was it?
It was a lot of fun, obviously. I mean, the game speaks for itself. Have you been to a game at
I
Allegiant?
haven't. I wanted to take a stadium tour. It's like $80 just to tour the place.
Oh man, yeah, that's
Crazy.
That's a bit much. It was my first time there as well. I realized also that I hadn't been to. I know that they played NFL games at the Coliseum. I know that NFL has also been played at the Rose Bowl Stadium. But like a true, what I consider like kind of a true NFL, like modern NFL stadium. I haven't been to one like in my lifetime, so that was a first. It was a lot of fun. Obviously, it was an interesting, heated crowd. I know that there's always a lot of jokes about the SEC and how much football means to those schools and fans. I saw it for the first time and I believe it, so that was fun. Just
you went to a nice dinner, right? One of the nights.
Yeah, we went to Carbone, which it was more like my wife enjoys it. I think it's okay.
What'd you
it's
get?
A little overrated.
Give us the report.
So they're known for some spicy the rigatoni pasta.
Okay.
We got that. They actually make a tableside Caesar salad that is very good.
Love
so that was excellent.
Big Caesar salad guy over there. We know that.
Yes. And then they have it's off menu, but so if anybody here wants to go to Carbone, you can order it. You can just ask for it. They'll bring it. Some meatballs, which were good. They weren't like traditional meatballs. It felt like they had a mixture of like ground beef with some sort of Italian sausage. So it kind of had a different flavor than just a traditional meatball. So it was fine. I just think the restaurant is good. I just think as a whole, it's overrated generally speaking.
What a guy, though. He goes there anyways because that's where the lady wants to go. And Matt's a man of the people, making her happy. He knows how it works. So she went to Vegas to go see a USC football game. She gets to pick dinner. That seems like a win for everybody. Well, I'm glad you had a good time. I'm not glad that your team won, but I hope they lose every game for the rest of the season. So that'll do it for us, folks. We appreciate everybody in here joining us live as always. Over 1,000 people. Again, we appreciate you on the first night of the NFL season. Again, to clarify, as Matt wants us all to know. Dodgers big series against the Guardians coming up. Make sure you stay tuned to this channel because, as always, we've got content coming at you. We are working on a very special, very exciting interview that was potentially going to happen this morning. We think it's going to happen Saturday. So stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss that one. It's going to be a fun one. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. That is Matthew Moreno. If you're new around here, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you're a podcast person, Apple, Spotify, Google, even if you're not, just go in there, find the DodgerHeads podcast, rate, review, leave us a comment. We'd greatly appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody. And as always, go Dodgers.